Good afternoon and welcome to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbithe Mwema. It has been a while since we have engaged. I do hope that the new year 2020 has started off for you. What did you get up to during the Christmas holidays? What do you expect for 2020, at least financially? Do you have your financial goals in order? Do you have your investment goals in order? Do you think it's going to be a good year? Do you think it's going to be a bad year? As we kickstart our season for this particular year, we want to take a general look at the economy. Where did we come from last year, and what should our expectations be and our considerations be as we're even planning or coming up with our own thesis for investing on the Nairobi Securities Exchange or in other asset classes? With us in studio is Mr. Abraham Kamau. He is a CEO of Miradi Capital. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kamau.
Thank you.
I hope your holiday was well spent.
Yeah, it could have been longer.
It could have been longer.
Yeah.
If it would have been longer, I mean, there's a point you get to, and it's
Yes.
the utility that you get.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. 2020 has started. There has been a lot happening at a global scale, a lot happening at a local scale as well. I think the pandemic that we are looking at, maybe I'm being a bit pessimistic, but locusts have been a key thing, and they're coming closer to Nairobi. The rainfall pattern, are we going through El Nino? Are we going to La Nina? I think there are a couple of things that are potentially affecting the economy that are exogenous to what the central bank and treasury could do. But before we get into the details, what are your views? What are your sentiments? When 2020 has started, as an economist, what are your sentiments and expectations for this year?
I think I want to depart from what everybody is saying, that it's going to be a hard year. Personally, I think 2020 will be what we put into it.
Okay.
That's what I personally think. And there are economic factors and the other factors. Other factors mostly being political factors. The political factor, yes, it cannot be wished away. We have a new monster, BBI.
Yes.
How we pan it, how we cook it, how we dice it will affect a lot.
Okay.
The kind of noise that comes.
I like that you've started us on the political.
Yes.
Maybe with regards to maybe looking at a particular framework.
Yes.
What if we went through Pestel? So politically, we are saying that BBI is it's a big animal
Yes.
in the room.
Yes.
What does that mean? Does that determine the mood that we need to look into as we're getting into the next election cycle?
Yeah, because you see, first of all, how we unpack this BBI, because
Okay.
it's still just BBI. It needs to be unpacked, and unpacked for who? For the potential investor, the investor who's already here,
Yes.
and who's deciding whether they want to stay on or go away and then come back up to 2023, and the investor who wants to come in.
Okay.
They want to know whether BBI makes Kenya a politically more stable state or less stable state.
unstable. But what's the worst that could happen? So BBI does
The worst that could happen is if it polarizes us instead of, because actually BBI is supposed to build the bridges, but if it polarizes us the way they're starting to go, where we have camps and people are pulling from other directions, because we have been by and large we've been stable because of the handshake.
Okay.
We cannot wish that away.
Certainly.
Yes,
We cannot wish that away.
It created some calm that business, because business thrives in calm. Now we're going to a political year knowing that we thrive in 5-year cycles. With BBI is an unknown. So people need to understand it very fast and know what it portends for 2022.
You know, have you read it? I have read it, at least the...
Yes, I've read a bit of it, but to be quite honest, I've consciously been avoiding the document.
You know,
and I think I need to read it.
Maybe you need to read it.
Yes.
But I think the overall sentiment is, yes, it's a manifestation of the handshake, and it's actually articulating what the people who are part of the handshake are going to take out of the table. But when you actually look at the economic pillar in terms of what it looks at, it's very generic in its statements. It does say that we need to enhance employment for the Kenyan citizenry, especially the youth, but then it doesn't articulate a clear roadmap to what next. And I think maybe the point of caution that everybody's getting to is, if we go to a referendum and then this becomes the framework for the next 2 years in terms of how the economy is supposed to perform, then what are we really standing on and how do we evaluate?
Because I think in any economic dispensation, all that you require from the political side is just the will.
It's just the political goodwill.
Yeah, because they're good in rhetoric.
Okay.
And that's what they do for a living. But from the economic side, you have policies.
Yes.
But for formulation is one thing. The technocrats will formulate and leave it at that point.
Okay.
But now the execution requires will.
Yes.
And political will for that matter.
Political goodwill.
So if BBI will enhance political will to actually implement some of the policies we already have,
then that's a positive.
that will do it. Because we are not short of plans, for sure.
So on our pestle framework, politics, it's something to look out for. It could be a risk factor, but it's something to watch closely. Now, when we go look at the economy, broadly speaking, we are looking at the outlook of GDP growth, we're looking at inflation, we're looking at currency and interest rates. GDP, last results that we have seen reported, lowest quarter we have seen in a long while. Are you positive about 2020 as a year, or do you think it could actually be worse than what we saw in 2019?
You see, now I don't know, because we from the formal sector, by formal sector I mean people who are formally employed, we are almost in an egg and chicken scenario. Because people are the reason people are losing jobs is because the real incomes of people are either stagnating or falling.
Okay.
That means, that portends that their discretionary income is also falling, or becoming non-existent for that matter.
All right.
So when that discretionary income, then that means the spending power is falling. When the spending power is falling, the demand is falling. When the demand falls, then you need less of supply.
Exactly.
When you need less of supply, that means the factories need less people to be there.
Yes.
So those guys go home. Some people go home. When those people go home, they come and make this problem worse.
Okay. Because
they are again lesser people to demand.
Yes.
So we battle ourselves in
so in other words, your inflation doesn't...
Yes. So basically, you don't know what is causing what. But what is for a fact is that the low demand comes from low income.
Exactly.
Now the policy shifts to how do we enhance household income?
Okay.
That is what should occupy our mind, because
so
if we sort that out, everything else gets sorted out.
Okay.
But you remember, about 5-6 months ago, the government, again, another good document, there's an agricultural master plan that was launched.
Okay.
That not only tries to claim more land from the arid areas, but also wants to lift the standard of living of people in agricultural-based areas, which is 80% of this country. So if that would work, and you even enhance per capita income even by $100.
But then there are risk factors. I mean, look at it hasn't become a national pandemic, but the fact that you have locusts that have come from the northern part of the country, today we have seen a report that they're now in Kirinyaga, that if this continues to affect the arable land that we have, that is negative for the agricultural output. Agriculture is almost a quarter of the output that we measure at a GDP level. I mean, that would certainly be negative for the economy, or how would we look at it?
Two things. One, the areas that locusts are pretending to go to is not the entire agricultural area we have.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, we could have done this better, because there's a whole organization here just to deal with locust control. So maybe somebody's dropped the ball somewhere. And even the way we are dealing with them, and even the way you can see people are joking around that we're using tear gas, maybe we are not managing it as we should, or saying that if you see a photo of this, send it to so.
Yes, that's
so
probably the
maybe we're not taking it as seriously as we should. And as nature would have it, they have chosen to go to the counties that have...
Or is it now an act of God at this point?
You see, okay, I don't speak for God, so I will not say that. But what is for sure...
So that we need to pray instead of identify on a light note.
Maybe we should. Okay. But I think also there are things that we can do without having to disturb God.
Exactly.
Yes, like just implementing some of the good plans that we have.
That's true.
So in terms of agriculture, you see, like now we have a lot of rain. But what are we doing? We're just doing a good job of taking it to the Indian Ocean. As it creates mayhem along the way.
Is this rain a risk factor? Is it El Nino? Does it
get followed by La Nina? It depends on what we do with it.
Yes.
You see, if we were ready for harvesting it and using it, it would have been a blessing. Okay. Right now, I think it's running as a curse.
It's running as a curse.
Yes.
So then now, on agriculture, at least on GDP, one of the mainstays of the economy, the agricultural sector, there are a couple of risk factors there. What about other areas, maybe service sectors, even the East African community, because we have seen a trend where local manufacturing companies are increasing their capacity with the hope of actually tapping into the broader East African community as a market. And I suppose this is in light of what you've just mentioned, that the household income is probably stagnating, if not becoming lower in Kenya. Therefore, the demand for the Kenyan market will not be materially growing, at least over the next 1 to 2 years.
You see, the East African region now, with them putting the act together, I think is a very high risk factor for Kenya. Okay. In this sense. Previously, most companies wanted to, as you say, hub here and export. But now, countries like Rwanda, a bit of Tanzania, and a bit of Uganda now are starting to put the act together, are becoming more attractive. So the investors prefer to go there and set up factory there. Okay. And DRC is not so far apart, so far away. So in that, and then you're seeing now even there's a new pipeline going away from Kenya. There's an SGR of sorts that is going away from Kenya. So So as they put the act together, then we also have to up our game in how we're doing.
Okay.
Because it's just a matter of time before, again, this pipeline that we are doing, somebody else comes up with something new.
Oh yeah, and as long as
yes,
if you're
because
first
we
to
are, so if you
market-
want to put it on the ground, let's put it quickly.
Yes.
Before people get other ideas.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, we are saying other factors, yes, are at play, but as I told you, I think it's what we want to put into this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
And-
what
and-
we put
and-
into
yeah,
this year.
and upfront.
We'll reap what
Yes.
what we take.
Yes.
Okay. So that said, when we look at central bank, it's due to have its first meeting this month, and then we look at fiscal policy. So monetary policy versus fiscal policy. Are you seeing a change in the way we have been doing our fiscal policy and our monetary policy? And I think if I delve into monetary policy, interest rates, do you see a trend of either the rates coming lower, or do you expect them to remain where they're at? What are some of the considerations you expect to see from the central bank this year?
You see, after the repeat of the rate cap, at
Yes.
least finally the MPC moved. You know, they had stayed at 9 for I think
It had
six,
for a
7
very
quarters.
long, yes.
But it was very mild. I think it's a very cautious move.
Yes.
I think it needs to be more bold to actually emphasize that the government wants the interest rates to go lower. You've seen Standard Chartered has followed.
Yes, Standard Chartered has been the first one.
They have followed downward. Because in this economy, it will be very hard, even without controls, for a bank to go up. Because why? Even because of reputational risk. Because you'll be perceived as a ruthless, as a non-caring, and all those bad
But does that
adjectives.
matter as long as people can access money?
You see now, it will matter in this sense. Will you be the one who will be said to have dove in fast? Because it's a guy who goes in fast.
But then is there a consequence? For example, because look at all the reports that we have seen.
The consequence may not be, the central bank will not do anything. It's a free world.
Yes.
But remember, there's a bank which will not name here by name that tried to go that route. You saw how everybody lynched them. They had to retract it, and they had actually done it.
Yes.
So now everybody's cautious. Standard Chartered has gone the other way.
Okay.
At least then we can mention them by name. They've gone the other way. But what we are saying, even at current rates, banks can make money.
Okay.
But you see, the fact that we removed the rate cap did not change the risk appetite for a bank.
Yes.
So it only allowed them to price those risks that they have appetite for correctly,
Okay.
if at all there was something like
Okay.
that.
So banks can still make money
So
in this
they're
environment.
still staying where they were.
Yes.
So this rate does not make them move. You see, so and that was the narrative that was being sold, that the day we remove, there'll be a panacea and all will be sorted out.
Okay.
As you can see that.
So
on the
all
top.
right, that's not happening.
Yes.
Treasury, budget deficit, fiscal
Yeah,
deficit.
now that is the elephant, because we've been trying to use monetary policy to fix the fiscal mess. At the end of the day, we have to start moving towards a balanced budget. This thing of having a 1
How?
trillion...
We already owe more to China now, and we start paying back our debt. That's
Precisely.
fair.
But you see, with debt, we've said it here and we're going to say it again.
Yes.
We have to sit and honestly get this debt refinanced.
Okay.
Cheaper, longer tenors. You know, Kenya will be here for 1 trillion years if God will allow us to be on this earth for that long. So why are we paying debts in 40 years? Yeah, let's pay it for longer. If it's China, even China will be around in 1 trillion years. So what's the hurry?
Extend.
Yeah,
the-
extend, have longer terms. Let's have a 40-year moratorium. At least let's leave this earth when we're still on moratorium.
So maybe more Eurobonds, supposedly, in this
Yeah,
year?
better instrument, but those instruments must be tagged to projects.
Okay.
Because if you look at our 6 trillion debt, there has been discussions around whether all that money either came here or went to what it was supposed to do. Those discussions are out there.
Yes.
And that is what I think also is bringing problems when we come to refinance. Because for you to go to a refinance here, you must come clean.
That's true.
And that's where the problem, because even now, if you talk about a debt register, when is the last time you saw the debt register?
Oh, it's been
It's
probably,
a secret
the last one
document.
was 2015.
Yes, 2015.
or
That's the one that is on the
2016.
website. Yes.
Yes, that's the only
so it's a
one on their
document you can't
website.
access.
Yes.
So there's a bit of opacity there.
Okay.
So for us to really, this conversation must be honest. And for you to be honest, it has to be transparent. And sometimes for you to be transparent, you have to own up to certain things. There's no big deal. If it didn't come, it didn't come. Let's move on.
Okay.
But we had 60, we had 60. That's what you have to deal with. Yes.
Okay. Then the key thing, I think, on the fiscal side is really the upcoming budget, and maybe the cycle starts sooner.
Yes.
And maybe expecting more accountability. But I can't see a situation where we see a huge improvement with regards to the deficit.
You see,
Because on one end, your revenue, as you've said, the demand, the household income is not necessarily growing, and that has a direct correlation with regards to how much KRA can raise. And then you have your budget expenditure. There are new taxes. There is the presumptive tax, there's the turnover tax. So where's this tax going to come from? And should it even be there at this point in time?
In fact, I like the last part of your question. Should it be there? Right now, I don't think there's anybody standing in Kenya who can tell you exactly how a tax, what compliance with tax looks like.
Okay.
Because of the multiplicity and the complexity of our tax laws.
So then should we have larger jails for people who are not able to comply?
Because first of all,
what are we going to do?
You catch me with one law, I'll produce another one that says I'm compliant.
Okay, so maybe that's
it has reached a point where even I think even carry themselves are not very clear. And it's high time also, I think we need to sort out the legal regime, because one of the tenets of our tax is that it should be simple. One of the many tenets of taxation, it should be simple to understand. Even this turnover tax they've come up with, it just is that they clarified that even companies, liability companies are not there.
Yes.
Because previously we thought that anybody so you see, there are all those gray areas. So, and that affects compliance, because there's somebody who was willing to pay tax, but they thought they are in the bracket and they are not,
yes,
or they thought they were outside and they were in.
Yes, that's very true.
So there's that aspect. And then tax rates. These tax rates could be lower, but they could only be lower if our net is wider.
But then, let me play devil's advocate in this context, Abraham.
Yes.
So it is either the government thinks that the economy is doing very well, and that there's a lot of money that's been hidden there.
Yes.
So it's coming up with all these different tax policies on how they need to raise money. And for them, they're like, we need this money, and it is out there, so we must get it. That's one thing. Or the economy is just not doing well and there's no money to collect, but then you still have to push these new taxes because of your relationship with some of the Bretton Woods institutions, and these are the expectations that have been signed on the dotted line. So which is it? Is it that the economy has money and is able to actually take up this new tax burden and be able to fill it, or we are running on an expenditure that doesn't make sense and we'll still keep having a deficit here on?
Again, the last part of your
the
question.
Last part. So I just need to
that last part, you've summarized very well. I think we've reached a point where our compulsory expenditure is almost above 2 trillion. If you combine wage bill, both county and central, both developmental and because developmental you can call it, and then our debt payments. Now, if KRA cannot collect that and we want to go to a balanced budget, the only option we have is to bring down the size of government, because there's nothing you can do about debt payment. We are at 60.
You have to pay your debtor. You have to, otherwise it will even take the bet.
And this question we have always asked ourselves: does the government have to be the size it is? Can it be smaller? And can it still deliver equal to or more than what is delivered?
BBI wants a slightly bigger.
You see, as I'm telling you, when I was telling you about the only thing we want from the politicians is their will, and they leave it at that point. Then technocrats take it over. But even the constitution we have is because we allowed politicians and lawyers, with all due respect to them, to take us through this, and you can see the kind of expensive document they gave us. It works politically, it works legally. But you can see the cost of it. Nobody looked at the cost.
All right, fantastic. We're doing very well. Let's park that economy. I'll come back to it, because all these things what I'm trying to bring out is at the end of this conversation, what industries are going to do well, which are not going to do well. So far, we have come up with the fact that banks will still make money in this environment.
They will.
That's something to consider. So we can keep going through. And for instance, now let's look at the social and the technological element on the pastel framework. So socially, unemployment rates. I mean, what needs to happen to just spur a good, positive social framework where people are feeling economically empowered and financially empowered?
You see, tax is one of those things. Actually, let me talk about compliance. Because if we want people to start doing small things, because the idea is that everybody participates in the GDP.
Yes.
Yes, because the more the participation, then the more the spread of the benefits of it. Everybody's allowed, when he says the Mama Mboga sells mboga, but he sells mboga illegally because she doesn't have a permit.
Yes.
So
she pays every day to...
She pays, but there are two systems. Yeah, there's a system. That other system is very, very unforgiving.
On the ground.
Yeah, and they have got good collection. Maybe KRA needs to learn from them. They collect their dues.
They do.
Yeah,
they
collect,
actually do.
But this other side, they've not paid the county, and I know that there are so many things they don't pay there. They don't pay tax. But if you were to ask them, they would love to pay. But do they even know how?
No, and there's
Yes.
no way you can get the Mama
Yes.
Mboga to go
Yes.
line up for
But
a
that's
day.
why I say the KRA has a research department. They can think a bit more and ask themselves, how do we reach this person in the easiest way possible? You see, because again, another tenet of tax is the ease. That the cost of collecting it should not exceed what you're collecting.
Exactly.
You know, or should not be a significant part of it.
Okay.
You see the effort. So what I'm saying, we're not as tax uncompliant as as people think we are. People want to pay, but people want to pay what they think is commensurate with what they're getting. And then that's the other part of it. When we pay our taxes, what are they doing? Can we fill those taxes? Because what is the expectations of public goods that we're supposed to get, and are we getting them?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So when there's a big divide between the expectation and what you're supposed to pay, that's when people start saying, you know what, I will not pay.
Okay.
I will find ways of not paying.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Technology. Anything new you've
te-
heard
te-
about?
technology-
Any excitement there?
Technology will continue to disrupt, especially our telecoms and financial services. That's why you see banks are laying off, but almost taking in as many. That means they are replacing
Yes.
the skills.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are replacing the people like me who were trained initially as bankers, who are using ledgers. That is gone. Now we have a new fresh where banking is more on a platform than in a brick and mortar.
That's true.
So if you work in some banks now, they have you can go in and count your own money, and you're gone.
Yes.
So if the cashier next to it has not seen that rating, I don't know what they are waiting for.
Yes.
So it means in a short time, some jobs will literally disappear.
But then
and some are already.
the biggest beneficiaries either people with the right technological skills
Yes.
or the companies that are actually the
of
railroads
offering that. But
offering that
see, whichever way it
technology.
looks like, we'll need less of human capital. But it is not globally, it is less human capital per unit.
Okay.
But those units can become more.
Yes,
so
they
that
can.
on the sum total, we have more people employed than were employed before.
So then there's actually a direct link between the social element and the technological element,
there
because
is.
literally what you're saying is this year, I like the way we started and you said you have to act.
Yes.
This year will all be dependent on
Of
your
course,
actions.
yes.
So maybe one of your actions is how do I become aligned with the current technology and not necessarily as a user, because we're all conversant with the M-Pesas, with how to use M-Pesa and how to just use the digital platforms on social media. But then are we conversant on how to build solutions using the digital platform as well?
Because I was talking to a gentleman from a bank, and he was telling me they can't even get enough data scientists.
Okay, so data scientists, that is
data
one.
scientists. You see, because what they're trying to do is to correlate data. Because the data, they have a lot of it. But you see, data is just data. For data to move from data to information, you have to analyze it.
That's true.
So nowadays, the thing is to correlate. We're trying to understand so that we move to a point where if I'm looking at Abraham, I have so many touch points on him, I can tell he'll pay me back or not almost with surety.
Exactly.
So I don't need this to go to there to give me land, those things that are expired,
Yes,
that are expired on
okay,
us.
okay.
So the asymmetry of information is improved through data collection. So by the time you're applying for your loan, I just need to know your name or even just your ID number.
Okay.
And some analytics, some algorithms will run, and on
I
my
can
screen as I'm
guess.
talking to you, they're telling me just this guy is only good for 10 bob.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you? I hope that was not me, right?
No,
I'm
it was
looking
me.
for much more.
It was.
Okay. Regulatory, they'll probably the final point on this. Regulatory and legal risk. How does that look like? We have seen a lot of intervention by the cabinet secretaries, been the advisors, the technical advisors to the president. We've also seen MPs and the decisions that they make, especially those decisions that can have a drastic impact on industry. Are there any touch points that you think will probably come out or rear their ugly head in this year?
You see, like the Interscap is a good example
Okay.
of where somebody overstepped their mandate, or people don't listen to expert advice. But you see, Parliament is there to make laws, and nobody stops them from making a bad law. It's law anyway. Once it's passed.
Is there any because like some of the key things that, for instance, that I've heard,
Yeah.
like there's always the back and forth on the dominance report on Safaricom, and you
Yes.
hear one or two other things. At least that's one thing that I think it's worth keeping tabs on. But are there other industries that you think we could possibly see a bit of back and forth with the MPs?
You see, Okay, telecom is very interesting.
Yes, telecoms.
Yeah, telecoms, because you see, like now, we're already at 112% penetration.
Yes.
That means anybody who needs the same card already has one.
Already has
and,
one.
And there's some who have more than one.
Yes.
So it means for you to enjoy lunch, you must eat somebody else's lunch. That's what it is now. That's where we are at.
I thought we are getting to a place where there's a lot. Kenya is in a vibrant space. There's more than enough to go around.
You see, the
cake isn't getting
bigger.
Numbers
don't lie. We have 47 million, and the SIM cards are more than 47 million.
Yes.
So it can only, and don't forget, there are kids in there.
Okay.
So what it means, telecoms now, the people who are pushing new SIM cards, that energy must go somewhere else.
Yes.
They have to look for ways of growing their income.
Indeed.
In other ways, new products and everything else. But even if you go to in the manufacturing area, I think the guys who will thrive more are guys who manufacture those goods that we must consume, like food, for example.
Okay.
Medicine.
So not beer.
Yeah. Beer depends. You know, the sample beer is a must.
Yes.
Yeah, it depends on consumption patterns as varied as they are people now.
Okay.
Okay.
So
you see, yes. So there's somebody who would rather take a beer than eat.
Yes.
That's how different we are.
Okay.
But generally speaking.
So generally speaking, at
human
least
beings will at
basic
least,
needs,
basic needs will have to go first.
Okay.
So people producing those kind of things, but then again, are they able to produce them at a price which can be afforded by 80 to 90% of this country? Because those are guys who are earning very little money. The less than $1 a day. Sometimes we use that word very casually, but it's a reality for many people. So are we able to bring down the cost of? Because, like, for example, if today we decided that it's a priority for this country for people to eat, and you said the staple food for this country is ugali, and you made sure, because how come when we wanted to make it at 90, we were able to do it?
Okay.
So we can bring it to 50 if we wanted, and even without.
So we need to eat ugali, but it needs to be priced at 50.
And I stand here and I can be taken on this.
Yes.
Even without subsidy,
yes,
the price of ugali can come down to up to 60.
It can come down
because
to 50.
What is so sophisticated about processing maize?
That's true.
There's nothing.
But hold on to that. We need to take a short break, certainly not for ugali.
I wish it was.
I wish it was. Yeah. The Nairobi Securities Exchange has closed. Look out for the closing bell, and we will see you shortly.